Do we have any visitors here for the first time at Safe Streets? All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. And welcome, and please come back anytime. We do have two new members, Randy Main from Quincy House and Molly Shuckman from Associated Youth Services. So welcome and congratulations. I'll turn it over to Miss Christie now.
Thank you, Trey. Whoa, can you hear me okay? Alrighty. I'm Christy Pankratz. I'm the director of Safe Streets and just wanted to welcome you all, and it's great to have a full house. We're so excited to have you here. We're changing the format up a little bit, so we hope you enjoy this, and if you have any suggestions, as Trey said, please just let us know. We have a very great champion of character to recognize, and I'd like to ask Cindy Patton with City of Character to come up and start the process.
Well, it's my pleasure to bring us a new City of Character for this year, or for this month, and this is the first one of this year because we got canceled last month with the snowstorm. So Lieutenant Perry, would you please come forward? And our recognition council, I see the DAs here, and Chief Miller, and Dick Klein, and I know there's somebody else. Oh, Sheriff Jones, yeah. Please come forward. So today we'd like to recognize Lieutenant Joe Perry. He spearheaded and developed the Topeka Mural Project, and he's recognized for initiative, enthusiasm, and diligence. He has shown all of these character traits in his efforts to get community involvement and recruit partners and donors for this important project. I'm going to turn the mic over to Chief Miller to present the award, and then I'm going to give a chance for Joe to tell you a little bit more about his project.
Congratulations, Joe. The Kansas Character Recognition Council of Topeka, Shawnee County recognizes Lieutenant Joe Perry. As the strength of our nation is dependent upon the health and safety of its citizens, the strength of our community is dependent upon the character of its citizens. We, the Character Recognition Council of Kansas, in conjunction with the Topeka City of Character and the Safe Streets Coalition of Topeka, Shawnee County, recognizes Lieutenant Joe Perry for demonstrating initiative, enthusiasm, and diligence. We wish to commend you for your efforts to get community involved and to recruit partners and donors for the Topeka Mural Project. Thank you for helping us create a culture of character and competence in our community.
And Joe has a lot of his family here today, and we're really glad that he brought them here.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm honored to receive this award. When last year, I had never mind that I'd receive any award for it. I just thought we could improve the community and reduce some crime. So I want to introduce my parents. They've had very little opportunity throughout my life to witness anything like this because I was in the military. And they were in California and all over the place. So my father, Jack, and my mom, Della, right here. Thanks for being here, guys. So the Topeka Mural Project was an idea I had to reduce crime and improve the quality of life in Topeka, and I thought we could do that using public art projects. So I called Sarah Fizell, who's the director of Arts Connect, one day just out of the blue, and asked her to come over and have a meeting with me. And ever since then, we've taken off with this. Sarah, thank you for answering that call and being part of this program. But what we've been doing is raising funds and partnerships to paint murals throughout the city. What we have is the artists will outline their design on the wall, and then we have the citizens actually paint it in, and that way we've got community involvement, community ownership. The people who help with their blood, sweat, and tears are going to be more likely to protect that wall. They're going to report crime, things like that. They're also what we noticed in Oakland, which is where our first 2 murals went up, 1 wall, 2 murals. The neighborhood started to improve. There was 5 houses in the neighborhood that repainted their houses, fixed their yards, did everything so they could keep up with the Joneses, if you will, and represent the neighborhood better with the wall being painted. And since then, the community's painted an additional wall across the street that had nothing to do with us. So the neighborhood's improving. It's in Oakland. I encourage you to go look at it. We've had a lot of partnerships, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, Lowe's, the Shawnee County Hazardous Waste actually helped us out with paint and things like that. So it's a really good program. We're slated to put up another mural at Avondale East just as soon as we can get the weather to hold for us. We've got that in the works, and we're just excited. The grant we just received is going to allow us to put up about between 6 and 8 murals throughout the city, and we hope to do that just in perpetuity. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Be sure and fill out nomination forms. Those are available online at topekacityofcharacter.org. And also, I'm getting some new nomination forms printed for us, so we'll have those available on the tables for you in the future. Thank you.
All right, we're moving along here. The next thing that I have a responsibility to do is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which was like a year ago. No, it was a number of months ago. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Have a motion and a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. They have graciously given me a few minutes to talk to you about the upcoming bond issue for USD 501. Topeka Public Schools has put together a package of a number of items, and we are asking the voters to vote on that issue on April 8th by a mail-in ballot. Most importantly, we have provided information on your table. There's a yellow sheet and then a kind of white sheet with leading learners on it. We ask that you review those documents. They will provide you a good deal of information with regard to the upcoming bond issue. There are a lot of things on there dealing with the safety of the schools, dealing with technology, and a number of other things that we are very concerned about. I have Cindy Kelly here today and Ron Harbaugh, if you guys raise your hands for me real quickly, who are here and available and will be here till the end of the meeting to answer any questions as you're looking over that material that you might have. It's important that you vote on the issue on April 8th. So I hope you're all registered to vote. Please take that opportunity, review the material, become better educated about it, and then give us an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the bond issue. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ron, very much. Safe Streets just hired a new community mobilizer, and I'd like her to stand up right now. You may recognize her voice from WIBW News. Jamie Slack has joined our team as a community mobilizer. She's going to be working with neighborhoods, substance abuse prevention, and we're very excited to have her on board. So feel free to call her and ask her any questions right now. She knows a lot. Right. Well, since December, we've gone ahead to facilitate a lot of neighborhood watches. If you have any interest in starting one or just curious if there's one in your neighborhood, just give Safe Streets a call. We are here to help. We've conducted various events and trainings and presentations impacting more than 200 people. So we're very proud of that. And with Jamie joining our team, we anticipate that number tripling. A lot of pressure there. So one of the events that we're working for is the reality tour. You should have a flyer underneath a lot of your stuff. This event is March 30th and 31st. It's a walkthrough for the consequences of alcohol and drug use. Just contact our offices to register for this. It's great for kids and families. So if you have any interest in volunteering, please let us know that too. Space is limited to 60 per each session. So please give us a call to register. We have quite a few upcoming dates. Retailers Association, for any managers or loss prevention officers, this is great to exchange information about what's going on in your area and what you're seeing. We are going to be partnering with WIBW Radio for St. Patrick's Day Parade to promote National Night Out. So if anybody is interested in carrying a sign for National Night Out, stop me after the meeting and we'll get you hooked up with when and where to meet. The reality tour is coming up. We are also doing a safe property management class here in April 17th. This is for landowners and property managers on how to make their property the safest it can be. And the first National Night Out planning meeting is also April 17th, 6:30 in the library. You have a brochure on your desk, on your table too. So please take that and feel free to distribute that however you would like. And National Night Out is, of course, August 9th. So we're on track to make this the best ever, and our thanks to the sheriff, the chief, and the district attorney for their continued support of that event. So that's been wonderful. Let's give them a round of applause. One of the things we're doing with this meeting is we want to make this meaningful for you. So also on your table, there is a little Safe Street sheet that says how you can get involved in the community. It looks like this. It gives different initiatives and plays that we have, from the Underage Drinking Task Force to Lock It, Remove It, or Lose It. These breakouts will not be meeting during the coalition time. We will instead be encouraging the off-site meetings. And on the table, there is a yellow sign-in sheet. We encourage you to sign in, and if you would like to be involved in one of those initiatives, just check the box, and we'll make sure to get you connected to the appropriate person. So that would be, if you're interested, please, please, please do that. We need all the support and help we can get, and we really encourage you to take what you learned from this meeting and share it with not only your colleagues, but your family, your friends, and your neighborhood too. So that's what we want you to take away from this meeting. And I'd like to give you an update on one of the plays. Eve Kendall is the head of the Underage Drinking Task Force, and she'll come up and give you a quick update on what's going on, what they're working on.
Hello, everyone. I have two thoughts. The first one is, most of you would agree that alcohol can impair judgment. I think that's a pretty fair statement, right? Another thought that I have is that sometimes teenagers don't always have the best judgment to begin with. Is that a pretty fair statement? Sometimes I think some of us older kids don't have very good judgment, but anyway. The other thing that I think about sometimes is that a lot of people would agree with me that underage drinking can be a catalyst for other actions because it impairs judgment. Some stats I have for you, the most recent I have is 2009 for the state of Kansas. There were 10,000 non-fatal violent crimes, such as rape, robbery, and assault, and over 18,000 property crimes, burglary, larceny, car theft, burglary, that kind of stuff, all attributed to underage drinking. There was alcohol involved in the crime with the youth when they were arrested. Another kind of sobering fact, no pun intended, maybe intended, there were 277 teen pregnancies in 2009, and over 8,000 teens having sex that were all attributed to underage drinking. Once again, alcohol impairs judgment. Teens don't have the best judgment to begin with, so when you combine the two, you have some issues. That's why we have Underage Drinking Task Force here in Shawnee County. We have been meeting for a few years, forever, some would say. And we will continue to meet. What we plan on doing this year is we are going to continue to do some law enforcement operations, shoulder taps, and going into alcohol sales places and seeing if people into underage drinking people, and different things like that, crashing parties, all the fun things that law enforcement gets to do. Some people think are fun. The other thing, though, is we're going to continue to do some what I used to call commercials. Now they call public service announcements. We got some of those that are going to be coming up that I hope that you will see on TV in probably the next month. One of our new initiatives is that we have a new Power of Parents workshop going on, which is in conjunction with MAD. What we found out that teens, no matter what parents think, they still listen to their parents, okay? And so, but sometimes parents are afraid to talk to their teens about different issues, and drinking is one of them. So we've teamed up with MAD, and they've initiated this program, and we think it's a good program. So it's a one-time workshop for parents. It's only about an hour long, and we're creating facilitators to go out to different, sessions and teaching parents how to talk to their kids. Some people find it easy. Some people, it's not so easy. But not only do they find out that they can still talk to their kids, but they also find out they can talk to their kids about other things other than just drinking. So we think it's a win-win. And then finally, we meet once a month because we found that just meeting here in our breakout sessions wasn't, enough for us. So we meet once a month. It's usually the third Thursday of the month. This next meeting is March 13th. We're focusing on, like I said, community outreach, which is the education piece of it, communication as far as media and Facebook, task force awareness, that kind of stuff, and then law enforcement and legislative updates as far as legislative awareness. Whether or not we need to tweak some wording in some of the ordinances or the laws and stuff to make things a little bit more easy for law enforcement and for the enforcement of underage drinking. I hope that you will join us if you have a passion or you feel the need. There are some of us that, we've been doing it forever, but it doesn't feel like forever because we still have the issue. And I hope that you will join us. I hope that you will find your niche, and if not this one, some other initiative that we have going on with Safe Streets involved in your community so we can make it a better community and a safer community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Eve. I'd like to go ahead and ask the next portion of our program to come up. Would the panelists for the law enforcement come forward? And as they're coming forward, I just wanted to highlight on the underage drinking initiative, this has been going on since 2009, as Eve said. Because of their work and dedication, we have been able to secure additional grant funding to address that topic. So the work they do is very meaningful for not only our organization, but for the entire community. So we greatly appreciate what it is they do. All right, we're going to be switching things up a little bit here. We're doing a panel presentation today to talk about law enforcement and crime initiatives going on in the county. I'd like to go ahead and introduce all of them, although I'm sure they don't need any introduction. We have District Attorney Chad Taylor, Chief Ron Miller, Sheriff Herman Jones, and Doug Searcy, the coordinator for Crime Stoppers. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give them each a few minutes to talk about what it is they're working on and anything that might be pertinent to their work. Test.
Good afternoon, and thank all of you for coming. As your district attorney, there are a lot of things that we put into play, and at the table I was talking about before we came up here, it takes a while to change a culture of an organization. If you look at what we've done in the district attorney's office from where we started to where we are at today, we were able to identify some issues and some problems that we were having. We were able to effectively communicate those with our law enforcement partners, be it the police department, the sheriff's office, and then the ability to dovetail Crime Stoppers into that in order to bring for our community what it is that people actually want. They want a safer community, and they want to see justice, and they want to see it in a timely fashion. So one of the things that we've been able to do is that we've stopped fighting the sentencing guidelines here in Kansas, and we've started using them to our advantage. What that means in real simple parlance is that we are going to take individuals, we're going to put them into the system the first time that they come in, We're going to maximize their criminal history, and then we're going to wait. And we're going to wait for those individuals to do one of two things. Hopefully the first one is that they straighten up, fly right, and we never see them in the criminal justice system again. That's a huge win. The second is that if they do screw up again, then it's not a matter of if they go to prison, we're negotiating over how long. And it's taken a long time to get the entire system, from the judges to the defense lawyers to our law enforcement partners, to understand that this is the way that we're going to attack and approach this problem. The second thing that's going on that I'm very excited about is, and you've heard me preach on this a lot, is the effectiveness of utilizing a grand jury system in the state of Kansas. We spent 2 years in trying to get this initiative through the Kansas legislature to be able to get the law passed. We were able to successfully get that done. It became the law of the land last summer. We have already impaneled our first grand jury. It was very successful. As taxpayers, you should be pleased with the efficiency of which we were able to push over 400 cases through to the indictment level without having to bring in multiple folks to testify and incur the expense of doing that. In addition to that, we're back in front of the legislature this year to ask for a fix. There's two components of that. The first one is the ability to indict misdemeanors that occur under a felony occurrence. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Someone comes to a house, they kick in the front door, and they burglarize it. There's two crimes there: criminal damage to property and the burglary. Well, you would step back and say, Chad, why do we care about the misdemeanor? The reason that we care about the underlying misdemeanor is because there is a victim who has suffered a financial loss, their door being kicked in, and somebody's got to pay for that. We've got to be able to drag that misdemeanor through the criminal system to be able to get that victim restitution so that they're ultimately not victimized twice. That initiative just passed the Kansas Senate in a vote of 39-0 and is now moving over onto the House side, where we will begin the legislative process of getting that pushed through. So we're doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of things in what I think is in a creative, different sort of way to try to figure out how it is that we're going to move. I tell people when I go out and talk in the community, we've got about this much crime that we've got to get through a pipe that's about this big every year in Shawnee County. So there's no pride in authorship, and if we can come up with a better way to skin the cat, we're most certainly interested in doing that. And part of that success has been the ongoing cooperation from our chief of police, our sheriff, and our Crime Stoppers coordinator, because the last component that I want to talk about is the importance of this organization and the importance of getting individuals in our community to buy into what we're trying to do. Our violent crime numbers for last year were down substantially. They were the lowest violent crime reported numbers since 2002. Total since 2002. So we're headed in the right direction, and a lot of that has to do with individuals who live in neighborhoods having the ability and the willingness to cooperate and to tell us what they saw and to be able to come to court and testify so we can get these bad people off the streets. Thank you.
For the 8 years that I've been here as the police chief, Safe Streets has talked about crime stats, and we used to go through them every month, or we went through them every quarter, and we have made a point that we don't live or die on the crime stats. And what that means is not all crime ever gets reported. I think we all know that there's a lot of crime that doesn't get reported, but what happens is the reported crime becomes a barometer, something that we can look at to see what's going on and what's happening in our community. And in 2013, we had, as the DA alluded to, we had the lowest overall reported crime in Topeka since we can verify numbers back to 2002. And that stated means that we could probably go back farther than that, but we can't verify the numbers, or the record keeping on the numbers is accurate, but we can back to 2002. And there's a number of issues that revolve around that. How does that happen? How do we reduce crime in the community? It takes the neighborhoods, it takes the community officers working in the neighborhoods, it takes the SROs working in the schools, it takes the school district. We have excellent partnership with 501 Public Schools. It takes all of those components. It takes Safe Streets and Crime Stoppers and the Sheriff's Office and all the people in the community who work hard and keep focused on trying to reduce crime in our community. And for us to have the lowest number in 2013 that has been recorded since 2002 is a huge step in the right direction. So how does that happen, and how does violent crime go down? There are a number of initiatives that people need to be aware of. And the first of them is that the City Council in Topeka made a commitment to public safety approximately, it's a couple of years back, but the point that they made was that public safety was their number one priority and put their money behind it. We were able to fully staff the police department. We were able to buy equipment, cars, but because we had suffered through the downturn that occurred in 2008, and then in 2009 and 10, crime went back up. And so what occurred in those areas is that they made a commitment that that was what they tried to do. The police department then has assigned people to various federal task forces, and one of the things that you should know about is the Violent Crime Unit or the Violent Crime Initiative or the Violent Crime Task Force. And what also happens with the partnership with our federal partners, where we try to systematically remove violent criminals from the city of Topeka. Get them off the streets of Topeka and Shawnee County. Get them out of here. And so if you have a convicted felon who's in possession of a firearm, and we're able to make a case against that person for the possession of the firearm, they go away to the federal penitentiary for 5 years. There's been hundreds of those people removed from our community. I'm literally talking 300 people, give or take, that no longer walk the streets of the city of Topeka and Shawnee County committing violent crime. That takes a commitment of the community to make that happen. And those are some of this example. I only got 5 minutes. Those are the examples of some of the things that are underway to get that crime rate to be going down in significant numbers. Then you talk about the prosecution initiative. Then you talk about the things that happen with the grand jury bill and the commitment of our elected officials to public safety. It's not rocket science. We've been talking about this for 8 years. It's not rocket science. We can get these numbers down and make Topeka a safer community as long as that collaboration continues to exist and public safety continues to be the priority that it is. So, and in 2014 so far, since this is March, almost the end of the first quarter, the numbers continue to decline over what they were in 2013, which was down over 12, which was down over 11. So we clearly have this thing going the right direction of community, and there's no reason to believe it won't continue if we continue to make this a priority and work together.
Well, as you've heard from the two before me, that obviously it doesn't, you can't reduce crime and you can't prevent crime all by yourself. Two words come to mind of what we really concentrate on of any one of the panelists here is that you work on collaboration and communication. Collaboration is that whether you know it or not, that these two tall guys next to me, off to my right, to your left, we collaborate basically every week for the most part. We'll sit down and we talk about collaborations, and it's about communication, because we realize this community, we're involved in this community throughout anything that we do. And as it's been said, and you probably have heard it many times, it's a three-legged stool. If you chop one off, there's an imbalance in what we want to do for fighting crime and making this place a little bit safer. So we always want to make sure that we're working together on this, on our mission to making this place much safer. So in that, we've got the communication, but we've got collaboration, and there are a lot of initiatives that are done between our agencies here, as been said many a times, to get people off the streets that don't need to be on the streets. And it goes beyond the police department and the DA's office, but it also goes into the community. And it goes into the other agencies that are probably not represented up here, but we know it takes many more. When we talk about 501 and the police and talking about working with our SROs in our various schools throughout this community. When we talk about our firefighters and we're talking about our emergency management, it's all deals with collaboration. We look at a situation where throughout this community, if there is a tragedy or if there is a emergency situation such as a tornado or a flood, it's not the sheriff's office that does that. It's everyone in this room that makes it happen. So that becomes that collaboration, and as well as that communication of knowing what we need to do and what our roles are. Sometimes we have to overcome our egos many a times, and we put the individuals of this community on the forefront of what our mission is to make sure we get the job done. And so from any and all that what we do in the sheriff's office there, we allocate so many personnel, but we also rely on our resources outside of the borders of the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office there. And with that, then, we know that we cannot be the sole source of any and all of what we do.
The first thing that I would like to say is thank you, Christy and Safe Streets, for involving Crime Stoppers today in this little discussion. Crime Stoppers has been a mainstay here in the capital area for over 30 years. I'm sure all of you remember the number by heart. But let me give you a little bit of an update on our past 30 years real quick, and then I'll kind of let you know some of the current trends that are going on in Crime Stoppers and what our focus for 2014 is going to be. We have facilitated, through anonymous tipsters, the arrest of over 1,500 felony suspects over the past 30 years. We have approved for payout over $180,000 in rewards. And here just recently, with the Underage Drinking Task Force, that program is significant and it is extremely important. When I, as the coordinator of Crime Stoppers, and are able to take in a tip, forward that to our law enforcement partners, they go out to a residential party where some young people are underage drinking, and those officers find one of our youth passed out in a bathtub and needing immediate medical attention for their safety. That's a good thing. And that individual was able to get the treatment that they needed. Law enforcement took care of that issue. And then I, along with one of my volunteer board members, were able to make a tipster payment to that individual who is a youth who stood up in the community and made that phone call. And we hope to see many more of those with the Underage Drinking Task Force. The current trends that we have currently in Crime Stoppers, some of the things we're seeing a large number of tips that are now coming in from our website, and a continual increase in the number of text tips that we take. So that's a good sign. I think we've kind of transitioned from our traditional phone taking tips, we've kind of transitioned, I think, into a lot of the minds and the smartphones of some of our younger people, and I think that's a step in the right direction. For Crime Stoppers, we're trying not to, as a board, we're trying not to become anything more than our piece of the partnership. Let us not underestimate the power of partnerships. And Crime Stoppers would not have been as successful as it has been in the last few years or over the past 30 years without the partnerships of these three gentlemen sitting to my right. And, of course, all the volunteers on my board. For 2014, Crime Stoppers is going to relook at and try to continue its success that we've had with Scholastic Crime Stoppers. We want to be able to get into all of our high schools, let those high school students know that they have an outlet. We know that it's difficult for our young people to necessarily walk up sometimes to an SRO or to any law enforcement officer. They don't want to be seen as a snitch. But if we can provide them with an anonymous outlet to provide information to law enforcement so that our students here in this community can make their schools safer, I think that's a great thing. We've had a great partnership with Safe Streets. We want that to continue. I would like to challenge every member of Safe Streets as well as the staff to think about ways in which Crime Stoppers can be used to facilitate any of the programs that you do. And we'll be willing to help with anything. Last but not least, kind of a passion of mine, Crime Stoppers is looking forward, hopefully in the next year or two, to continue our work with capital cold cases and facilitating our law enforcement partners with cold case homicide work, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more feature programs in the future.
Great, thank you very much, gentlemen. District Attorney Taylor, I have a question for you. What is the thing you are most proud of in your office right now?
There are a lot of them, so I'm running the Rolodex. I think that globally, the thing that I'm the most proud of is that I think attitude is really, really important. And when I came into this job 6 years ago, and it seems impossible that it's been that long, but there was kind of a defeatist attitude of crime getting over on us, and that we were in a position where the defense bar was pushing the prosecutors around in the courthouse every day. The dispositions on cases that we were getting wasn't that great. And the thing that I'm probably the most proud of is the people that I get to supervise every day who get out of bed, not because they make a lot of money doing it or for fame or fortune or anything like that, but they like going to work every day and they like fighting for what's right. And it's a real privilege to be able to lead that group of people. And for those of you who know them, it's a mixed bag of crazy that I supervise every day. But their heart's in the right place, and they get up and they do what they do every day so that the citizens of this community can go to and from work and to and from home unmolested and can live a prosperous and productive life without the fear of the bad guy, the boogeyman, jumping out and getting them. And that's a really big transition, and that's a really big corner that we've turned. And I'm very proud of that, because when I found out about a week ago of where our crime numbers were actually at, when the chief told me, well, actually the chief didn't tell me, I heard it from somebody else, and I went to the chief and said, is this actually true? And he's like, yeah, those are the numbers. And not that we haven't had some blips in there over the last couple of years where we've had a couple of bad quarters, but at the end of the day, I'm very proud of the fact that we're being successful and that we've got kind of that dark cloud of defeatist attitude off the top of us, and that, between the PD, the sheriff, the U.S. Attorney's Office, at the end of the day, nobody cares who gets the credit as long as the job gets done, and that's a really unique situation to be in, and it's fun to come to work every day. So,
thank you very much. Chief Miller, what role does the community play in crime reduction?
Well, there are many community groups. I think the last time we talked about this number, there's 100 or more community groups, organized NAs or NIAs in this community. And various parts of the community have an autonomy about it. That's their neighborhood. That's their area. That's places where they live. And when they see things that happen and they report those to the police department, or they report those things to their elected officials, and those people bring that forward to us, those are the kind of things that make it have an impact on crime. If people, you take a community back one block at a time, and if block by block people just take responsibility for their area, it's like the mural project that Lieutenant Perry mentioned a while ago, then you see the whole neighborhood start to get better. And or we deal with a property that has to be dealt with, whether it's a code problem or property has to be demolished or whatever, and you take that property back, then the whole neighborhood sees that, and then everybody gets a little better. And once, just the theory, the old broken windows theory, we don't need to go through that again. Everybody knows what that is. You fix those problems, things get better. And that's a collaborative effort of this entire community for the past several years. and a rich history that the community should be proud of. So, and when the community turns information into Crime Stoppers and they pay out tips, and all of a sudden you've got a guy under arrest that's committed multiple crimes, and the community knows that, they see the benefit of reporting the crime. And so the part that the community plays in reducing crime is providing all of the law enforcement partners information, or maybe testimony, or coming forward, or National Night Out's a perfect example. Well, we moved into the top 10 a couple of years ago, and then we moved up to number 7, and now we're trying to exceed 10,000 people being involved in National Night Out this coming August. That's huge. I mean, just look at that nationwide, what has happened in Topeka that makes this a safer community. So the community is the reason there's crime reduction. Now, you expect us to do things like make arrests and prosecute cases and get all that done, but the reality is the whole community is involved in that, and it's successful.
Thank you very much, Chief. Sheriff Jones, in the county, neighbors are often further apart than they are inside the city limits. What advice do you have for people who live in the county on how to be a good neighbor?
Well, you're right. When we're talking about the county and individuals that live a little bit further apart from each other, what we want to do is always maintain the concept that we are neighbors. And whether we live in the city or living out in the county, what we want to do is just think about what is it that we would like in our county to make it safer. So if it could be something as simple as on a certain day, on a Wednesday, you put the trash container out by the road. It's a little windy. The wind blows it over out into the roadway. What can we do to make that safer? That's something as simple as just when you drive by, not to drive around it. Maybe stop and move it. That's something very simple, but that makes the roadway safer, but that makes our neighborhood safe, but you're taking care of your partner that lives there. Second to that is get to know your neighbors. Too often, as we know, we've gotten away from sitting out on the porch or going over and speaking to our neighbor and what have you. A little different in my neighborhood, because if I cut my grass in the middle of the day, instead of taking 2 hours, it might take me 6 hours because the neighbors stop and we talk. But at the same time, if you build a relationship with your neighbor, you're more apt to take care of them. So if we build that relationship, one of the ways that we can go about that is our neighborhood watch. Even though it's out in the county, we can still develop those relationships, and it also gives us the clues of what we need to look for. Basically, if you know who your neighbor is, you generally know what kind of car they drive, what time they're going to be at home, when they're going to be gone, and those types of situations there. If you know that and you see something that's out of place, it's the old saying, see something, say something, do something about it. We rely on you and the people outside of this room in this community to be the extension of law enforcement. There's only so many law enforcement officers in this county. Whether we're talking about city, highway patrol, whatever it is, there's only so many of us, but there's plenty of citizens. You are the extension of law enforcement. You are the eyes and ears. For us to get into a point where we report, arrest, prosecute, it basically starts from the citizens. If the citizens aren't involved, it makes it difficult for us to do our job, or we may not even get that call of something that's reported. So in that question then, how can we make that community a little bit safer then, is just take some involvement in your neighbors, get to know them. You see something, say something, do something about it, and be active role. Take an active role in your community.
Thank you, Sheriff. Doug, one of the questions I'm sure you're asked is, how is Crime Stoppers anonymous?
That's a battle that we always fight in Crime Stoppers, because there is the perception by some of the public that, maybe it's not really anonymous. Maybe they can find out who you are. And that's far from the truth. Let me just give you a quick example of how Crime Stoppers works. Of course, by the telephone, there's no caller ID. By the website, there is only an anonymous number that's assigned each tipster. And specifically with our text tips that we take in, someone in this community can text to Crime Stoppers, that tip will come in, their phone number, and that text tip goes to Canada. And it's put through a computer in Canada and then comes back to me either at my desk or on my smartphone, and it is a 4-digit number, not the phone number of that individual. So I can instantly communicate with that tipster real time, but I don't have a clue. They're just a number to me. I have lots of people that call me on the phone and they'll start by giving me their name, and I very politely tell them, I don't want to know your name, just your number. I find myself sometimes thinking that I'm the keeper of odd and worthless knowledge, and sometimes that knowledge and those tips that I take in sometimes are worthless and sometimes they're very valuable. So what I would ask you to do to help Crime Stoppers is if you hear of a neighbor or anyone that's maybe a little hesitant to call police because they think that bit of information they have isn't important, it could very well be very important, and they can do it anonymously. We've received tips in the past which have been just a tip with regards to a tag number, and that tag number led law enforcement to the driver of a getaway vehicle and the homicide suspects involved in that homicide. So, you know, I've never paid a reward to anyone out there that I can see, so I don't know my tipsters. You probably aren't the folks that are calling Crime Stoppers, but if you hear of anything in the community and you can help facilitate Crime Stoppers by truly letting people know to call and that it is anonymous.
Great, thank you. One final question for all of you, and that is, what is we as the Safe Streets Coalition, we as Topeka, Shawnee County do to make this the safest capital community? District Attorney?
Get involved and talk to your friends and neighbors about what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, and to echo 2 points that have kind of been kicked around. On the police department, there's what, 285 sworn? 290 PD or sheriff, there's 85? Okay. Total law enforcement between Topeka, the county, the highway patrol, the federal agencies, everybody else, that number's probably around 425 to 450 people on any given day. There's 180,000 people that live in the county. What we do to keep our community safe begins with one citizen doing the right thing. If something doesn't feel right, if something looks wrong, we would much rather drive by, stop, talk, check it out, and make sure that everything's okay versus being in a position of somebody going, well, I thought that looked out of place. I wish I'd have done that now. Just go ahead and do it. Because we all have, and when we talk to crime victims in our office, there's a very common theme. And they all talk about, you know, I had that feeling something was wrong. Well, that's that little alligator part of our brains that kicks in and goes, hey, something's wrong, pay attention, be more aware, be more alert. So when you have that feeling and you think something's out of whack, call law enforcement and let us handle that, because that's really, really important. So that's my 2 cents.
If you're not in a neighborhood watch group, start one. If you're in a neighborhood watch group, stay active. If you're really active in your neighborhood group, get some more people to be as active as you are.
Thank you, Chief.
Ditto. and actually, that's what I was going to say, is that this group right here, you're here for a reason. But it doesn't do us any good if it stays in this room. We are the carriers of that information. Go out and spread the good news. You know, that carries over to some other story there, but for what we have right here, we have a good thing going. Well, as has been said, this is something I use for the kids, I use for the adults, and I use for this room right here. We have a good thing, but let's not rest until the good gets better and the better gets best.
I'll be quick. If you have information, call law enforcement. If you know somebody that has information to help fight crime, encourage them to call law enforcement. If you yourself or they are not willing to call law enforcement, Crime Stoppers is there 24 hours a day, 365.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for all that you do and for all of your officers and staff. We greatly appreciate everything that it is you do for our community. Let's give a round of applause. Well, as we wrap up this meeting, I also want to give a shout out to City 4. They are here taping our meetings and will be airing on City 4 in the future. So we'll be sending out information on when we can expect that. So let's give them a round of applause too. So thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing you in April. And please be sure to share information. We will be sending it out via email too. So forward on to everyone you can think of. Thank you all.